So, in this third session of our latest series of live events, in partnership with Oxford Summer Courses and Summer Discovery, we shift the conversation towards a timely challenge for schools as summer approaches. For students, how can time outside of term be used more intentionally to support their growth, alongside ensuring they also have a well-earned downtime? School holidays should absolutely provide students with time to rest, recharge, but they can also offer really valuable opportunities for purposeful learning, reflection, and personal growth. For schools, this period presents a major opportunity to extend learning beyond the classroom, helping students build confidence, explore interests, gain real-world exposure, and make more informed decisions about their futures. In this discussion, we'll be exploring how students can balance academic enrichment, personal development, well-being, and meaningful experiences that genuinely add value during the school break. This session is also delivered alongside our partners at Summer Discovery and Oxford Summer Courses, who have a wealth of insights and experiences on this topic, providing life-changing study abroad experiences across the US, Oxford, and Cambridge here in the UK, for students aged 9 right up to the ages of 24. They've also got a special offer for all registrants of this session for any of your students that are interested in joining one of their programs this summer. And we'll be sending all those details around, further information to everyone that's registered for this session. So do keep an eye out for that. So getting started, a few introductions. Scott, would you introduce your role and where you're currently based?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Rosenbluth. I'm the VP of Operations for Summer Discovery and Oxford Summer Courses. I'm based here in New York, but have the privilege of getting to oversee the planning and execution of our programs across the country and the world. And I'm very excited to be here with you today.
Awesome. Milika?
Hello everyone, my name is Milika Radojkovic. I'm Career Guidance Counselor at Qatar International School. We are one of the oldest schools here in Qatar, and we are a British curriculum school.
Fantastic. Sharifa?
Hi, I'm Sharifa, and I'm the University Careers Guidance Counselor at the Arbor School in Dubai. We're a green school, so our priority is sustainability. And a lot of our work with students centers around helping them think more intentionally about themselves and their future and the kind of impact that they want to have. A particular passion of mine is helping students access experiences beyond the classroom, things that build their confidence, perspectives, and a sense of direction. So really looking forward to today's conversation.
Fantastic. And Daniela?
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniela Schmidt, and I'm based in Frankfurt, Germany. I work for the European School Rhine-Main, which does the European Baccalaureate and the International Baccalaureate. And we're currently the biggest school in the Frankfurt Main area, but the biggest private school. We have 1,800 students and a graduating class of 150 students. My role with the school is that I'm the principal of the upper secondary, so I'm responsible for grades 10, 11, and 12. And I'm also the careers counselor, and I head the careers counseling team. So it's a nice combination that allows me to work in sync and always one-to-one with the students, the families, but also to be responsible for their social-emotional development. I must apologize for my voice. I was struck down with a serious infection at the start of the week, and I'm feeling better as of today. But if you see that my voice wavers, please excuse that. Thanks.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, so yeah, getting started. Going to the first question. So, how can schools more intentionally guide students to use their time outside of term in ways that genuinely support their academic and personal development? Obviously, that balance of downtime is essential as well. But how do you believe schools can intentionally support students during this time? Sharifa, do you want to kick us off with that question?
Sure. I think it's very important that we focus more on intentionality over activities. The goal should not be to fill time with doing as much as possible, but to do what is intentional. So one of the most impactful ways outside of term is not necessarily the busiest schedule, but it's the most intentional one. I think as schools, we need to shift the conversation or shift the question from what did you do to why did you choose this and what did you gain? And there's a process to this. So pre-experience, for instance, they need to have a specific goal. Why are they doing this? What do they hope to gain out of it? Whether that's a skill or a particular exposure. And it's very important what happens after this, how they have reflected on it. Is this going into a CV? Is this going into a personal statement? There's different pathways, like they can pursue academic pursuits, like research or MOOCs. They can have more experiential experiences, like doing internships or volunteering, or they can choose to experiment or develop something in a more personal sense, something that's more creative. If we look at an example, for instance, for a student who's interested in medicine, and we see this a lot, a very common approach is that they decide they are going to attend a 2-week medical summer school. And that ends up being very lecture-based. Instead of doing that, it would be better to switch from a more passive to a more intentional or active approach. So for instance, shadowing a GP for 3 to 5 days, and at the same time completing an online course in medical ethics, and finishing by keeping a reflective journal that integrates their interaction with patients as well as what they have learned about the healthcare system as a whole. The impact here would be that the student doesn't just experience medicine, but they really start to think about what kind of doctor they would like to be. So it goes into a more applied problem solving than just passive consumption of information.
Thanks, Sharifa. Milika, what are your thoughts on that one in terms of how we can intentionally guide students?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Sharifa because I'm facing same problems in my school. So it's always a lot of talking with students. And I'm trying because our cohort is huge. So my graduating cohort is around 200 students. So what I'm trying to do with my students since first meeting in year 12 and later following up meetings with year 13s, I'm always saying, like, think about what you will do during winter break, what you will do during summer break. Don't waste your time and don't be, all of them are actually doing the same thing. As Sharifa said, like they will do hospital volunteering. And I said, like, but you need to think what's the purpose of that? So it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So you need to be aware how to use that, let's say, internship, volunteering, even online course. So how that would fit in your CV, motivational letter, what's the purpose of that? It's not just I attended science fair, I got certificate and amazing, I have something to put one line in our CV to submit to the university. So I'm always telling them a long time ago, secondary school was enough. Then we had like this limit to the bachelor's degree, but now, master's degree, like we are, the education system is asking for more, definitely. So grades are always number one, but we always need to have something that will make difference between students with the same grade. So because I'm a career counselor starting from year 7, finishing with year 13. So I'm always saying our students in year 7, 8, and 9 to use MOOCs and do some online courses. And if they are ready and they have like financial means, they can always go attend some summer camp abroad or in Qatar. But of course, this must be something meaningful because like they're just losing time. So they have something on paper, but actually they do not have something valuable. And of course, year 9s, they need to focus on choosing subjects. So in that direction, they need to see what summer camp, what summer program will contribute to the experience and how they will later choose their subjects. And of course, older students, which pathway they will choose. As Sharifa said, like, okay, you want to do medicine, but are you aware of all pathways that they can come from that decision? So that's why, like, I'm always telling them, please do supercurricular activities, do extracurricular activities, and just fill your CV, but meaningfully.
Thanks, Milica. Absolutely. Scott, I'd love to get your thoughts now in terms of what you're seeing from a trends perspective in the schools that you work with at Summer Discovery.
Yeah, I think the schools that are most successful are the ones that treat summer as an extension of the educational arc. That summer is a time for development and change, and really an opportunity for students to double down in areas that they are interested in. And we also have a ton of students who don't necessarily know what they want to do. And that's normal, and that's okay. And that means that summer can be a time for exploration for them. And the other thing is the skills that you gain from maybe being away from home and trying something different or doubling down in an area of interest produces developmental change in a high school student that's important in all facets of life. So I think continuing the conversation of not just how can you spend your summer, but how can you better yourself. We know that there are a ton of students who will choose what's most convenient or maybe what's most fun, and that's important too. As we shared, summer is a time for some downtime, some time with family and friends, but it also is a really unique opportunity to figure out what those career pathways may be, figure out how you could be successful at university, make some life-changing friends, and also gain some really awesome experience working with amazing people, learning from instructors, and really having a good sense of how you want to chart your path forward.
Thanks, Scott. Daniela, how are you approaching this at your school in Germany in terms of intentionally guiding students?
Yeah, I'll just build up on what was said so far. So Sharifa talked about intentionality, and Milica added to that by saying you need to have a purpose. And Scott said, well, yes, and sometimes you don't know what you want to do, so you have to explore. And I would say the summers should be used to strengthen, of course, brain, do brain activation exercises, strengthen the cognitive skills, but also use them to explore or deep dive in a direction that you are set on. And my keyword here is alignment. So if a student knows, and of course it depends a lot on the age group, and that's the only thing I don't know about the audience, which age groups are we potentially interested in. If a student knows what their future career path is, and we're talking here about an upper secondary sort of grades 9 and onwards traditional high school student, then of course the summers make a lot of sense, not only for the students, but also for the parents, to strengthen the bonds and to say, look, this is a time when we'll be exploring campuses, we'll be deep diving into different programs and what they offer, so that when the career application process sets in or comes around the corner, you're well prepared. You know in which direction you want to go, you know which campuses and which vibe is really appealing to you, what type of learning setting you would enjoy. And I also think that no matter what the age group, if we're talking about younger kids, let's say middle school or even primary, I mean, what we do at our school, and I just want to give a few examples, is every year the language teachers provide the students with a list of youth best-selling authors, and they say, well, read as many as you can over the summer. But obviously, if we just leave it up to the students, and it's a low-stake exercise in the sense that they won't be assessed on this exercise, it's really up to the motivation of the students, where the parents are super crucial in this exercise, is that they can make it more fun. They can say, well, it's not just about reading, a particular book, let's do it as a family. And then let's have a presentation, let's have a book club, let's do some journaling, and let's write about this. And this gives an opportunity not only to strengthen the reflection and the critical thinking skills and the reading skills and the writing skills of the students, but it gives them an opportunity to create a stronger bond with the family. And this is what I would like to appeal to the audience to not only say, yes, we're looking to outsource this opportunity to develop these skills into our kids to the school or to other programs. I think the most successful cases are where there's really a very tight-knit support coming from the parents, the students, and then, of course, external partners. Yeah.
Brilliant, Daniela. Thank you. Yeah, and that moves me nicely onto the second question, actually. What do you believe are the core components for making up a meaningful enrichment experience during outside of term time? And how do you currently, work with students, obviously, but then also parents to help advise and sort of guide them to choose the right path for them? Sharifa, I'd love to get your thoughts on that one at the Arbor School.
So, in my opinion, a meaningful experience leaves a trace. There's something new you got out of it, new skills, new thinking, clear sense of direction. If none of those are present, it's a transaction. It's not transformation.
Mm-hmm.
We could potentially frame it around 3 markers. Number 1 is depth of engagement. Did the student actually do something, or did they just attend? Number 2 is personal alignment. Does it connect with what they want, with their values and their future direction or not? And number 3 is evidence. And this is a question that somebody was asking in the chat, is how do we measure progress and how can we articulate what has changed in their thinking and skills? And what separates a meaningful experience from a superficial one is based on consumption. The other is application, and more importantly, reflection. So if we say, for example, let's say we have a student who is passionate about psychology. A superficial experience would be to watch recorded lectures online. But a more meaningful one would be to, for instance, design a survey, look at social media use and attention span, for example. And they would analyze those results and then reflect on research limitation. And the difference between those, it shifts from passive learning to thinking like a psychologist. Mm-hmm. The second part of your question on how to guide families can be encourage them to ask. They encourage their students, their children, to ask. What are they going to be actively doing or producing or creating? Will they be stretched or will they just be comfortable? And how is any of this going to help them either A, grow, or B, decide? Basically, in a nutshell, if a student cannot explain what they did beyond just attending, it is highly unlikely to have been a meaningful experience.
Thanks, Sharifa. Yeah, Milika, I'd love to get your thoughts on that one in terms of what you think those core components are.
I have a problem with my students. They're very shy. So I think the best piece of advice would be don't be shy. I don't know why they still have that barrier. So there is always, when we offer, I created a Google Classroom especially for summer programs. So whenever I receive something interesting that I think it would be valuable, I always share with my families. So parents and students, they both have access to the Google Classroom, and there is always contact details. So I'm always encouraging them, please do not decide before you ask the questions. What's important for you? It's not only about destination. It's not only about like what is on the poster. Sometimes you need to ask some personal questions and to realize would that benefit you or no. And also, I'm very happy that our parents are quite aware that work placements are something that is missing. Qatar is obviously a very small country, so our cohort is big, so we are not able always to provide without parents and without summer opportunities and winter opportunities work placements for our students. So this is a substitute. Those kind of programs are substitute to work placements, and our parents, they understand and they support this. So usually we like to share as much possible information with them during the assemblies, parent coffee mornings or evenings or whenever, because we know how that is important. And again, some families are not always able, to send kids abroad every year or twice a year or whatever. So that's why we are insisting that this experience is meaningful and that you do your research. Okay, it happens that sometimes we make a mistake or do some program that is not so much beneficial, but that really happens if we did our research properly. That's always I'm telling them, please get in touch, ask as much possible questions you have. Even I have a small piece of paper telling them what kind of questions, and I keep doing that for university fairs as well, just please ask those questions. This is very important because not all information are shared through brochures, and you need to visit website to find the opportunity that is good for you, because we are not same and we are all have different pathways. So just decide what is the best decision for you. And I'm always against grouping. Of course, it's always good to go and spend summer with friends, but you will meet other people there, so not necessarily your friend is going to study the same major as you are studying. So and again, we have a shy students, so they have a different way, how they will fill their CVs and motivational letters and gain those kind of experience. So each student is very welcome to come to me, speak personally, but again, I'm trying to promote this as much as possible through assemblies.
Fantastic, thanks, Melika. Daniela, what are your thoughts in terms of do you feel make these experiences meaningful?
Yes, thank you. So I agree with what was said beforehand, and I'll try to then jump a little bit in a different direction. I think if we all reflect what makes an experience meaningful to us is, has it provided me with a new set of lenses or a new perspective that I hadn't thought about beforehand? And I think that's what makes a learning experience very important. I think Sharifa spoke about active learning and how important it is. And for me, any learning experience has always two dimensions. The one, of course, is the academic. Has it brought me forward? Have I perhaps added to my metacurricular knowledge about a subject? And I'll give you an experience in a second that is valuable and can help me further. But the second dimension is the social dimension. Did I feel included? What did we do afterwards? Did I interact with people from different cultures, from different groups, from different, belongings? And did this bring me forward in terms of my social skills and my interpersonal skills and my language skills? And in terms of metacurricular skills, what I always encourage my students to do, and again, we're back to the meaning and the alignment and the deep dive into a particular direction, is those students that know that economics is where they want to develop, and they know that stocks and trading, for example, is their big passion. When they engage in a summer experience that provides them with a different vantage point to how stocks and trading take place in the age of AI, or what the role of digitalization in the whole process is. And then they use it to create their own startup idea, or to engage even further with some particular aspect. Then that's where we see personal growth, development, a meaningful experience, but also something that brings them forward. Because, and I don't want to speak for the admissions officers of the universities, but those students that are very successful are the ones that have been able to narrow it down and to be very specific and very deep about exactly which part of economics do you find so fascinating and why. And you can only do that if you have been an active participant and they can see that your whole heart and your passion is in the subject. And it's not just superficial, it's not just box ticking. And I think Melika said about it earlier, it's not just the quantity, Look for the quality. So these are the kind of experiences that make it meaningful.
Brilliant, thanks, Daniela. And Scott, are these trends and priorities reflected in the students that go on summer discovery programs? And how are those reflected in the programs themselves? If you could talk a bit about that.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and I can't agree any more with what has been said. But yeah, these meaningful experiences really do produce change in the student, in skill, in perspective, and confidence. And I think those superficial experiences are just check boxes or a line on a resume without real substance. My advice to everyone would be to vet programs who are actually teaching and supervising genuine university partnerships and experienced faculty. I think the thing that I'm most proud of that we do is every student comes into our programs looking for something a little bit different. What we do is we collect that information. We want to know, what does every individual student hope to leave with? because we still have an opportunity to change, whether the instructor is maybe adding a different section or maybe spending different time out of class, going on a different type of field trip, bringing in a very specific guest speaker. We can really customize the experience to the students in the room. We're not just rolling out curriculum year after year that's the same, because students change, technology changes. We have more at our disposal than ever before. So how do we go the extra mile for every single student, so we can create the meaningful experiences that we want, and that we know that students want, and that we know that schools want? And then the other thing is, we realize that even though students may be with us for 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 weeks, the thing that matters most is whether those relationships with instructors and our company like ours continue long after that. We have students who reach out to their instructors, who have Zoom calls throughout the year, who are helping to mentor through passion projects. Like, that is what this is all about. If we can help students find their lane, help them build for the future, for their resume, that's really amazing. So it really is about those outcomes, and we want to make sure that we have those authentic relationships that kind of pave a way forward for that.
Thanks, Scott. And leading on to my next question, so in terms of looking at that connection between, in classroom learning and then experiential learning beyond the classroom, where do you feel currently that schools are potentially falling short in terms of it being a meaningful extension to learning outside of the classroom? Are there sort of current trends or challenges that you're seeing there, and where do you think that might be going in terms of helping students connect more to the real world, during term time, I suppose, as well? Milika, I'd love to get your thoughts on that one.
So that is actually the huge problem we are trying to overcome, because everything is theoretical through the exams. Okay, fine, we still have some trips during the school year, but this is not so much meaningful as we were talking about. So again, we are trying through the conversation with the students, starting at the beginning of the academic year, to try to see how we can promote different activities, and what we can do to improve their experiences, actually. And here it's very important to plan ahead, because sometimes very good programs, and as Scott said, like sometimes providers can customize certain parts of the program to benefit that specific student. But of course, this needs to be planned ahead of the time. So I'm always telling students, do not plan your summer in May and June, because it's already late, for that. Especially if that is program abroad, please start planning, because your parents need to pay, and maybe there are visa issues. There are a lot of things to be planned. So especially younger students, they don't think about those kind of things. So that's why we need to mention many times. Older students, they're already aware that they need to write motivational letter, they need to write CV, they need to make some very important decisions. So that's why we're always nagging about deadlines, and like start planning as soon as possible, because again, it's for your benefit, definitely. And as you have certain plans in place, the chances to benefit through the customized programs, or to have more details about program itself, to prepare yourself ahead of the time. Let's say for the shy students, we will see maybe someone from the school is also attending the same programs, so they can, be together. Or I will pay special attention how to prepare them to overcome those kind of barriers, especially if they want to study abroad and they didn't used to be in a foreign country. For example, their whole life they're here in Qatar traveling with the family, and that is the first time they want to go abroad to prepare themselves. So that is very important. So definitely plan ahead.
Thanks, Malika. Yeah, Daniela, in terms of your school, how are you? What challenges, I suppose, are you seeing in terms of connecting real world learning to in classroom theory?
Yeah, Max, your question in a way says, well, a sort of paraphrase says, are we preparing students well enough for the 21st century and for the world out there? And there are several gaps that are not necessarily linked to the school. But if we examine all the curricula that currently are still being taught, all the traditional subjects, this sort of subdivision, the biology, and the question is always, are we really preparing the students well enough for the digital world and the world of AI out there? And being based in Germany, data protection is a big thing. So we, of course, try to educate our students how to use AI in an ethical and morally responsible way. At the end of the day, I'm not sure that we're really doing them a service, because we cannot guarantee that all the students or all the young people out there will be using AI in an ethical, morally responsible way. Are they then competitive enough when it comes to applications for jobs and applications for universities? So I think the outside of classroom experiences and back to the meaning that we spoke about should really be used as an opportunity to strengthen those skills that perhaps the school isn't equipped to forfeit you with, and to actually to provide you with. And I just looking at our school, we have 40 different extracurricular clubs. The problem is they're all optional, and not everyone can be a TEDx finalist and speak at the end of the year. So what do you do if you didn't make the cutoff and you're not a finalist? What do you do if you didn't qualify to go to the Model United Nations conference in Prague or in New York or whatever it's taking place next year? And that's where you should be using the summer, and for that matter, all the breaks, to make sure that you don't lose track and you don't leave it only to the school or in what's happening outside of the classroom, because these opportunities are limited, and spaces and capacity is also limited. Whereas if you take everything in your own hands over the holidays, you can really work on bridging that gap potentially.
Thanks, Daniela. Sharifa, is this reflected in your school? I know the Arbor School is doing some amazing work in terms of connecting with sustainability, real world learning in terms of that area. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay. I could go on forever about everything that's wrong with the education system, but that is another topic for another day. Are we preparing students for the world? No. Is this the point of school? Originally, yes, but the purpose of education has changed and gets into education for profit and capitalism and human capital, and it's a whole, literally wrote my master's thesis about it. So don't. Moving on to how we can bridge those gaps. The important thing to keep in mind is there's a lot that schools cannot do within the current scope for whatever reasons. And this is where, and I don't remember who used the word authentic, but this is where external programs could play a big role, is when they add value to what schools cannot do. If they provide access to industries that we can't, if they provide exposure to very niche specializations that we can't. For example, if a student is interested in law, the only way they'll experience it on a school campus is through classroom debates or textbook case studies, but they'll never see the inside of a courtroom or understand legal workflows. Similarly, there's things that schools cannot do, like very niche fields like AI research, things like behavioral economics or biomedical engineering. And so if an external program extends the access or deepens their expertise or provides authentic experience, that is something that they can work with the school. Because again, I don't agree that it replaces it. Because at the end of the day, schools do play a huge part. We can curate the experience, we can prepare students for it, and we can help them extract value from it. So in summary, because I think everything was mentioned by my colleagues, I think that the problems with education, a whole other topic aside, but in terms of how we can prepare students for the world, it's not by outsourcing learning. It's by extending it in the most intelligent way, and the best way forward for our students.
That's a very interesting point you mentioned about working with external providers, right, as well. So it's connecting it so that there is that harmonious partnership almost, right? So it's not just something you off sell to someone else to get them to learn something during the summer, but that you actually work with those providers to ensure that there's continuity when they come back, which will be our final question actually in terms of looking at those tangible outcomes. But yeah, thanks, Sharifa. That was brilliant. Scott, are these sort of trends that you're seeing with the schools that you're working with? Obviously, all the students that you have on your courses each year.
They are, and students are craving that access, as Sharifa said. And I think we've noticed even on our own programs, there's only so much that we could do within the four walls of a classroom. And so one of the initiatives that we actually launched a few years ago, and we're bringing it to the UK this summer, is this Beyond Now initiative, which actually brings students closer to the action and the people who are building today, whether that be in medicine or AI or day trading or content creation, marketing. We wanted to bring them closer to the action. And what's so interesting about the people who are building those types of businesses and doing amazing work in our world is that they want to recruit younger students who are highly ambitious and who care about the world and what their contributions may be, and may not necessarily know how to get from point A to point B. So we launched this Beyond Now Summit, which we did in New York City in March. We're bringing a speaker series to Oxford this summer with some really amazing entrepreneurs and great business minds and leaders to bring students closer to the action. And it's a way that we want to also figure out how to get that to schools, because we realize that there's only so many, there's limits to what schools can and cannot do. But when students are wanting to make connections, and we can take that off of LinkedIn and off Instagram and into a classroom setting or into an informal meeting space, that is really high value. And so that is a focus of ours. And again, even with our core curriculum, again, like I said earlier, how do we find ways to bring in the right guest speakers? How do we find the way to go on the right field trips? How do we really show students the way that they can get to where they want to be, and also make connections that can help them get there far beyond the program or a classroom or a school year?
Brilliant. And we'll attach links to Beyond Now as well for everyone on this call as well, so you can have a further look at that when those landing pages are ready. But yeah, moving on to my last question, looking at sort of the tangible outcome, what is it that you're looking for when you look for external providers or experiential experiences during the summer? What are those outcomes that you feel are sort of key to consider, and then to look at, is it genuinely having a proper impact in your students when they come back after those holiday periods? Milika, I'd love to get your thoughts on that one in terms of those tangible outcomes that you look for.
The keyword experience. So they need to bring some experience in. Would that be, for example, okay, means I don't want to study this major. I realized that medicine is not for me. I want to change my opinion. I want to go in engineering direction and so on. And then I'm always, okay, let's see how you can gain experience related to engineering. So knowledge, definitely, experience, boost confidence, build their own network, meet other people, exchange experiences again. Do something with the summer. Okay, there are winter camps, definitely, but summer is a long period and they get a bit lazy during summer. So something meaningful during summer is definitely a good thing to do. And again, to do something that is beneficial for them, that will help them later, because as we discussed, we are quite limited in schools. And definitely those extensions as summer programs, as extracurricular activities, as super curricular activities is something that is needed nowadays. So everything goes very fast, and simple lectures and exams, it's something that is not enough simply.
Thanks, Milika. Daniela, your thoughts on that in terms of tangible outcomes? And should schools, I suppose, be measuring, how could we measure the impact of those experiences as well when they come back?
So I'll try to combine my answer to these two questions in one, because the way we can measure it is when after the summer or after the break, students approach you and there's this flame in their eyes and this flicker, and they are just so excited about a new skill that they learned or a new direction that they have discovered for their future career pathway, that you feel it. And now they're ready to invest 200% of their time towards this new vocation, towards this new passion that they have discovered. Then we know for sure, and we can measure the impact that such a program has provided the students with. And we have this very often. And it just then goes on. And of course, I take note of all these programs and I can recommend them again the next year to our teachers. In any case, and to our parents, to the community, there is a word in German that unfortunately does not have a direct translation in English. It's called Herzblut. It's if you have this ability to really have blood in your heart and to pursue a pathway no matter what, that's what a successful program, an impactful program, will provide the students with. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniela. Sharifa, your thoughts on that last question?
Daniela, that flame that you talked about, one of my favorite things about what we do. It's just so rewarding. It's just so rewarding when it happens. And I completely agree with what Melissa and Daniela said, that we need to redefine outcomes. Like, it's not a certificate, it's not hours logged. It's the skills you've learned. Are you communicating better? Have you dealt with people from different nationalities? How are you approaching problem solving? Has it clarified your direction a little bit better? And it's completely okay if you've realized this is not what you want. That's completely okay. In terms of measuring impact on the long run, yes, it's subject choices, it's university course alignment, it's more confident decision making. On the short run, if you want measurable impact, like right now, journals, debriefs, portfolios, and simply a conversation. Can they explain what they did, what they learned, how it changed them? Structured reflection. Can they analyze their experiences? Can they identify strengths and gaps? Can they transfer what they learned? Can they transfer the skills they learned, bring them back to their school settings? And can they transfer their subject knowledge into their summer programs? Has this confirmed an instance? Has it helped rule something out? Because the real measure of impact is not just what a student has completed or participated in. It's progression, because at the end of the day, we are talking about young adults who are going to be our doctors, our engineers, and we are going to rely on them one day, whether we like it or not. So when we remember the human element to it, it becomes more than a checkbox, more than just this is what I did. And so outcome has to be more qualitatively measured. What can they do now? What do they say now? And how has their thinking, confidence, and action changed as a result of what they did?
Brilliant. Thanks, Sharifa. Scott, are these trends reflected in the students that go on summer discovery programs each year, and how are these tangible outcomes woven into the programs themselves?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we certainly want students to return with a better, stronger portfolio, and but I think the thing that we really do want is clarity, which I love what Sharifa just said, for whether they want to continue on in that area of interest or if they're looking for something completely different. Both of those are wins. To get that clarity this early on is fantastic. And I think we want all students to go home, go back to their advisors and their schools and ask what's next. Whether they can, continue on pursuing what they learned over the course of the summer throughout the year. That's what we want. We don't want people to just take a particular course and then never think about it again until they actually are in college. We want them to start to think about that. And I love the idea of documenting whether that is through a journal or a portfolio or blogging or vlogging or whatever that may be. If students in high school, they are capable of being subject matter experts in all of these things for their own age group. And those are things that we want to encourage. And if they come home with the tools to do those things, to take those next steps, to ask the right questions, to have a more firm handshake, to be able to present themselves well, having made incredible friends, learning how to communicate better, then we've won. And so we try our best not just to focus on all that happens in the classroom, but everything that happens outside to make students better, stronger people and leaders. And it's something that at the end of every year we are most proud of.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. So we've got a bit of time for some Q&A, and we've had some questions in the chat here. So yeah, if anyone has any questions about what we've discussed, or maybe another area that you'd like to raise or ask our panelists about, then do pop that in the chat or the Q&A. But we've got a couple of questions here already. Yeah, and everyone's thoughts on, well, it's a tricky, this is a big one in terms of screen time. How much screen time is healthy during, I suppose, the summer break, any break for that matter? How do you deal with screen time, or obviously in terms of the school, but talking to parents and helping manage students' screen time outside of school? Sharifa, yeah.
I think that the use of the term screen time can be very misleading, because nobody can do anything without a screen anymore. Let's face it, it's 2026. And it depends on what you are doing. Like, what if your screen time is reading articles on your phone? What if all of that screen time is you are on Duolingo? As somebody who's learning a third language, I spend a lot of time on Duolingo. Does it count as negative consumption? I don't think so. For a teenager, maybe. But so I think the question should be social media. And there's really no right or wrong answer to this. And I think it really strongly depends on age, on parental influence, and how much they want their children to be exposed to. I've met some parents, they leave their children exposed to everything, and they want them to be. They want them to see everything on social media, and that way they can have structured conversations with them on what is ethically right, ethically wrong, why is this person saying this? Some parents don't even give their children a phone until they are 16. Some of those in my school as well. Some give them a phone from the 1990s that will only say hello and send a text message, but has no internet. It really depends on what they want their child to be exposed to. And I think, yes, there's dark and twisty things on the internet, but there's also all of the humanity's information ever there. So it's not generally about screen time is good, screen time is bad. I think it's how you use it.
Daniela, yeah, your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, screen time is a tricky subject. I agree. I can give you the German regulations that say that anything between 2 to 4 hours is permissible per day. 6 hours and more, according to the German regulations, classifies as addiction and requires psychotherapy. And the only thing that I would like to add to screen time, and why there's a huge debate now about banning social media, and Germany is also part of this discussion, is someone mentioned also ADHD in the chat, is that we see, and I think most of you have read The Anxious Generation, and we see that a lot of the statistics point towards the fact that we have kids and young adults that are more anxious these days, and social media and being exposed to everything that's happening in the world definitely can have a negative effect on this. Because if before, for example, 40 years ago, students would play amongst each other, they would compare themselves to the other people in the village, in the town, in the city, but not to 1 million or 2 million online. And of course, with the bearing into mind that the confidence, and we spoke a lot about confidence and different skills, are not so developed in young adolescents. We have to be careful with screen time. And I would encourage during those summer breaks to take the more challenging pathway and to go on these nature walks with the students and to do the journaling and the book clubs and the cardboard games and any kind of games that are away from the screen time, because it's very easy to say, yes, here you can watch something or read something online. But we have to think critically, where do we want our children to be? And is it really contributing to more anxiety? And as I think we're all experienced educators here, I can definitely tell, and that's based just on my own experience, the amount of anxiety and mental health breakdowns that we have today is strikingly different than what we had 25 years ago. So I think it would be irresponsible if we didn't make this connection and just said, look, you have to be careful. Thank you.
And Daniela, just a quick one on that. What's your policy at the school in terms of social media use? Yeah.
Oh, right. Yes, a good question. The German government banned the use of mobile phones in schools as of this year. So we have mobile phone pouches. And in so the students, when they come into school, they put their phones in there. And during the entire duration of the school, they're not allowed to consult and see their phones. And it's like a jammer. And when they leave school for security reasons, their parents can track them, how they get home or phone them. And in the upper years, we allow devices like laptops or smart pads, but they are used only for research purposes. And we do not allow any social media use. And before that, for example, you were talking about professions and the gap between what school is preparing you for and what school is not preparing you for. So, for example, the job of an influencer, right, with all of these policies and being so strict and traditional in terms of media use in the German schools, we're definitely not preparing the students well enough for that direction. But that on the flip side, I think it provides a safer environment also in terms of bullying or any kind of online cases or people having their photo taken without their permission. As I said, data protection is a big thing in Germany. And actually, I can see that the students are more focused in class, and that's what all the teachers say since this new policy was introduced by the German government. So knowing that you don't have access to your phone, and we have to ask ourselves as adults, when do we get fidgety and nervous? How long does it take us before we, check the emails on our phones or the newest posts? It just gives the students a peace of mind and the headspace to absorb new information and knowledge and maybe talk to each other, right? So instead of just being online or checking their phones and screens.
Thanks, Daniela. Yeah. Did anyone else want to add their thoughts to that question before we move on to another question?
I'm happy to. I think this is tricky. I come from the summer camp world before my time at Summer Discovery, where campers did not have phones, and it was a beautiful thing. But I think the thing that we try to do on our programs are, that's why we have residential life staff who are there when students are sitting around a dining room table and not talking to each other and all have their head stuck in their phone. How can we step in there and encourage conversation? We do have instructors who collect phones when they enter a classroom. And also, in times where, there are more social times where perhaps they're not doing a Duolingo, which I think is fantastic, or vlogging or whatever they may be doing on their phones, but are just scrolling on TikTok aimlessly. We want to step in the same way that we hope that's happening at home as well. We can't stop the screen time, but hopefully we can reduce it. And when there are social moments where students should be engaged in other ways, we have no issue stepping in and kind of encouraging, continuing to develop the relationships offline that are so highly valuable.
Fantastic. Thanks, Scott. Yes, Monica.
I would just add, because we have same policies, so definitely no phones. in our school. We have punches as well, but students are definitely sometimes using their own iPads and the laptops. It's very important the size of the screen actually, because if you notice, like many students are starting to wear glasses so early. So we are always telling to them, we have amazing IT department, they're always saying this is recommended size of the screen, because I'm definitely like, me as a parent, I started making mistakes like no games, no phones, no television, and then I noticed like my kids are looking at other kids who are fully allowed to do that without limits. So maybe some kind of balance. But again, we need to be very careful. Size of the screen, time of the day. It's always not recommended like to watch cartoons before bedtime. And I'm always like, if my kids are, for example, watching 1 hour TV, they need to be at least 2 hours outside. That's kind of balance, sunlight, pool, beach, nice weather here in Qatar, but less. But that's some kind of balance that all kids should have.
Yeah, I like that.
And
Thinking about
definitely no phones in the school, and those are kind of limitations students need to be aware of. And I think if the policy is set properly and if they're aware in advance of this, that's it. Like, you cannot, I'm so sorry, but you cannot use your phone in the school.
Brilliant. Thanks, Melika. We are quickly running out of time, but I just wanted to squeeze in one last question here from Anna and to get people's thoughts on it. How can we encourage employers and organizations to offer placements to students for meaningful work experience? Yeah, I mean, it's a big question, but yeah, getting that real world experience in the world of work. Any thoughts or insights on this? Yes, Daniela, yeah.
So, wonderful question. In our school, we have 2 years where we have a compulsory work experience for the students in the last 2 weeks of school. That's in 10th and 11th grade. But your question is very important, because what we're noticing is that the companies prefer AI to student interns or pupil interns. So the way we have done it is we have involved the parental community, and our parents association provides us also with a link of parental contacts who are open to taking student interns. And of course, the students apply a year in advance and they try. And for example, they know that they want to go into the aerospace engineering. So obviously they'll go for all these companies. But if they still fail and are rejected, then they can use this sort of internship pool that we have of internal parental contacts. And having the parents involved is so important, because we know that they would always make sure that the students are not just doing photocopies or some mundane tasks when they get to the company, that they will actually learn something. And that's the key here, that it's meaningful.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Daniela. Yeah, Sharifa, Melika, do you have a similar setup in terms of the parent associations as well?
So the reason Melitza and I were just laughing is because we're hosting a whole 1 hour session just about this next week. Anna, just drop me a message on LinkedIn and I'll send you the recording. I'll figure out what school you're in, because it's a BSME thing, but we have a whole other session about it, because it's very important. And as schools in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, we're asked to do it. But there's no formal structure for it, which is something that we're actively trying to change. How a lot of counselors are doing it is 100% using our parent network. And parents are more likely to host students from their child's school, even if they're not like in the graduating cohort or like in the senior school, because they understand that eventually this is going to roll out to their own children. So I've actually had, excuse me, some parents in primary who have hosted some of my students. It's mandatory on our calendars as well. We're British curriculum, so there's one in year 10, there's one in year 12. Lots of schools do it differently. I know some schools, it's all completely up to the students. They have to do it. And students have to be the ones to create a CV. Of course, they help them, and they have to send out and start asking people to host them, which simulates how we all apply for jobs anyway. Some schools do it all for them, where they tell them, just give them a list of contacts and they tell them to please host these students, and they have agreements in place. Some schools do a hybrid where a student has to show them that they have sent 3 emails to try to secure their own placement, and then if not, they will help them secure one. How we can encourage employers and organizations to offer placement, there has to be a government system for it. And employers and organizations have to see that there's something in it for them. If it aligns with their CSR, if it aligns with their business development model, if they see that there's added benefit for them, if they want to post about it on social media, they're like, they're so amazing. Unfortunately, nobody is going to do it out of the goodness of their heart. It happens, but rare. But if there is a government structure or an educational ministry decision that this is something that is done, if this is a policy, it makes everybody's life so much easier. So it's a country by country thing. Waiting for it to happen in UAE some days.
Brilliant. Thank
Yeah,
you.
definitely.
Yes,
Definitely. Same problem here. So we have a small advantage here. It's not mandatory, but we are expecting this to come probably in a few years, if not next year, because we're always following our neighbors. So it's very hard. Again, I'm relying totally on my parent network. I don't have any companies interested in this because it's hard for them in terms of policies, safeguarding. There's a lot of documents. Even we will provide everything is ready, it's on Drive. But again, like they need to do that part. Again, safeguarding requirements. So it's really, really hard to organize. And when I started promoting, I really hoped, I was like very enthusiastic, and I hope that I will have a lot of parents. But again, like parents of older students are actually involving because they're aware of importance, but I still need to do some assemblies and to activate parents of the younger students to join this. And definitely regarding joining companies, we need some policy from the ministry. And at the beginning, my principal, he told me, but in UK, there is a person in charge only for that. And you already have 220 students who are graduating from 6th form, and you have whole secondary, and it's really a hard job. But again, we are doing best what we can for our students.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time. We have run over a little bit, but yeah, appreciated everyone for sticking around and obviously for our panelists answering the questions. That was brilliant. Yeah, many themes to come off this, and I'm sure we can dive into those in future sessions. But yeah, thank you once again for everyone joining. We'll send the recording round in the next few days, and we'll also send them further details of the student offer from Summer Discovery and Summer courses as well to everyone registered at this session. And yeah, looking forward to hopefully seeing everyone in future sessions to come. But yeah, thank you once again, everybody. It was fantastic.
Thank you, Max, for hosting us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.